In this series I look at different strategies, heroes and items you can use against an ultimate ability in Dota. In this episode, from this comment, I'm going to be looking at Storm Spirit's Ball Lightning. First off, we have to dive into the mind of a Storm Spirit player. What is his motives? What's he trying to do? Well, the first thing is that he wants to just stay safe in the laning stage. He wants to get farm. He wants to build up an item like a Kaya or his Orchid. Because the thing is that this hero has massive potential to snowball, and snowball really hard. He's just going to create chaos for your team, but for your backline supports, these single heroes who are split pushing, he's just going to jump everywhere. He's not very good though at initiating in team fights unless he has an Aghanims, because he wants someone else to initiate. He's only good at initiating on single hero ganks, maybe 2 hero ganks. But the thing is that what's also there is that he has these low cooldowns. He's great at clearing small creep waves, and again, like, this hero is really good at catching heroes with very little or no escapes. So even Mirana, who does little leaps, that's not enough to actually get away from Storm. He can keep catching up with you. Now, a lot of the things that I just mentioned are something that you will definitely observe if you're playing against a good Storm Spirit player. But the player themselves, there's a lot more to it. The one thing that will really strike you with the hero is that the hero is very mana dependent, and Ball Lightning just drains that mana really hard, especially on the early levels. So if you're someone who can't get your farm early on, you're going to have that Orchid later timing. These mana other regen items like, say, Bloodstone, you're not going to have them, and you're going to struggle. It slows your pace down. So it means that getting farm early on is really important. And the last thing you want to be doing is farming jungle stacks. You want to be in the lanes. The hero is really good at clearing creep waves. So the thing is that one of the really strong strategies against the hero is to gank him early on and just force him to go into the jungle and push early game and force the game outside of Storm's control. He won't be able to do anything if you finish the game before he has a chance to even come online. Now, finishing the game early is no easy feat, but it means that it's really important that you itemize correctly, or you just pick the right heroes, that when Storm gets shut down, that he stays shut down when you are ahead. Some heroes have these attributes which are really good at countering Storm Spirit. These include early pushers, heroes who have root abilities. They're hard to burst damage, they're durable, they take a long time to kill, and Storm Spirit might not even be able to kill them on its own. And then there's also mana burners, make him even more and more mana dependent. And the first hero that comes to mind when you talk about mana burners is Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage is straight up one of the best heroes against Storm. If you're playing carry, this is the hero you should pick. Why? Because Storm has a hard time at finishing games out really early. He has to go kind of later, maybe 35-40 minute games. And this is something that benefits Anti-Mage. This stuff like Abyssal Blade into Manta and just chopping away at Storm Spirit's mana, that's something that's really strong. He can also keep up with Storm Spirit when he's trying to zip away, and most importantly, you have Anti-Mage's ultimate, which can completely obliterate Storm himself and plus all of his teammates standing beside him. So I talked about that Storm is really dependent on getting farm early, and he doesn't want to fall behind. Well, one of the best ways at stopping Storm Spirit from even being able to stay in the lane is to pick something with silence, such as Night Stalker, Skywrath Mage and Silencer. Why are these heroes really good? Well, Night Stalker has a silence built straight in. He's really good during the night time for these early ganks. Constantly keep Storm Spirit on his toes. He needs to constantly be thinking, where is Night Stalker? And you need to constantly be after him if you are playing Night Stalker. Now, going on to Skywrath, this is also another brilliant counter. Why? Because Ancient Seal is a 6-second silence with no cast point. What this means is a cast point is the amount of time that delay between you pressing the button and the time that it actually happens. But Ball Lightning has a 0.3 second cast time. Now, the other thing that you want to think about with cast time is Doom. Doom has an ultimate, disables Storm. It's really good later in the game, but if it's a very good Storm Spirit player or very high MMR, the Storm Spirit player can just constantly get away from Doom, because his cast animation is 0.7 seconds that's including his backswing, but Storm Spirit has a 0.3 second cast time, so there's like a 400 millisecond gap there where Storm can do an action or makes like Doom have to turn, and his turn rate is extra time again. You end up nearly having like around 500 or 600 milliseconds there where you can just do whatever you want, and very good players will exploit this. Another great hero that which ticks off a lot of these characteristics is Nyx. Not only can he gank Storm Spirit really well early on, but he also has a mana burn which destroys a certain amount of his mana equal to a multiplier of his intelligence, and Storm's an int hero, so you end up destroying a lot of his mana, which is really good. And then not only that, but you also have the fact that he's durable. The Spike Carapace makes him hard to combo down for Storm. One of the reasons why durability is really important against Storm Spirit's ultimate is because he wants to zip into the backline and cause chaos, even single out a target. He wants to silence you and finish you off before you can even use a spell. So how can you stop Storm Spirit from being able to continue this combo? Well, one way is picking Silencer. The first thing that you have is obviously his Global Silence, which you can counteract his ganks where he's jumping on one of your allies. Now the other thing you can do is use Arcane Curse, which is really good against Storm because I said earlier he has these low cooldown abilities, and Arcane Curse is very good against spell casting heroes, which Storm falls into. Now another great support hero is Treant Protector, because not only does he have high HP, but he also has living armor, which can help counteract ganks against Storm. The thing is that Storm will not be able to eat through all the instances of living armor because he doesn't have that very high attack speed. This other thing that's really good about Treant is later in the game, if you're farming somewhere greedily or you're just in some bad position, that Storm will need to have dust to catch you, because you're just going to go over and run into the trees and go invisible. Now the thing is with Storm, the only exception to this is that he can actually break trees with his ultimate. Now this is something that some Storm Spirit players won't do, and it's not a very good idea to buy Aghanims on Treant if you're playing against Storm, because he's going to break your trees. And the other thing is that even when the Storm Spirit is on your team, they always accidentally destroy your trees, so don't even buy the item if there's a Storm Spirit in your game. When you think about durable heroes, heroes that are really hard to take down, you think of Medusa. Not only is she really difficult for Storm Spirit to burst throughout the game, but Orchid doesn't actually do that much against Medusa. The other thing is that laning stage, Medusa's actually pretty good 1v1 in mid lane. You can use Mystic Snake and drain his mana. It makes, like, throughout the whole game, Medusa is really good against Storm Spirit, and a lot of people don't really see this one. That it's not one that you think about, but it is something to take into account, and you don't have to rely on this early pushing, as I was saying earlier. If you want to focus on pushing early, there's two heroes that I would focus on. One is Huskar and the other is Lycan. First off is that Storm Spirit relies very heavily on Overload in the early part of the game to do damage, which is mostly magical. Now Huskar has a passive which gives him a lot of magic resistance, and even in cases where Storm player plays really well and has like a 15-minute Orchid, let's say, Huskar can finish down at tier 3 by that stage if he's really good or he got a good start. Now Lycan is kind of similar, but the big difference is that Lycan can run really fast, 650 movement speed. Storm zip like his ultimate, he mightn't even be able to escape, let alone catch Lycan when he's trying to run away. So either way, that Lycan has this massive capability of not only of escaping but also catching up with Storm. Now another good hero is Meepo, because he's again durable, and on top of that his net, if he catches Storm once with the net, you can chain stun that net and keep him locked down in one position. Another hero that's really hard to burst is Wraith King. You can't kill him twice with Storm on your own, and Orchid doesn't really do much for the, well, kind of old saying, but the one button king. He's not really one button anymore. But the other thing is with Aghs on Wraith King, you have this reincarnation which allows your supports to get off all of their abilities before they get bursted down. Well, like, you have a delay on their death. One of the other characteristics is roots. I mentioned this with Meepo, but another good hero that's good in the offlane is Underlord, because not only are you hard to burst, but you also have a root ability and you can control a certain area and prevent Storm from going into it. Now he can zip over that area if he wants to, but not land in it. Now going on to items, let's stick with the topic of roots, but let's look at Rod of Atos in particular. Now Rod of Atos is really good at holding Storm in one position, but the bad thing is that he can disjoint projectile with just using his ball lightning, which is pretty easy to do, and it's really obvious that the projectile, because there's like a sound effect and everything. So should you start the fight and try and gank Storm Spirit with the Rod of Atos at the start of the fight? No. You need to use a silence to start off. So this could be something like Orchid, or better yet, pick something like Silencer and pop your global silence. Now you need to wait till near the end of the silence to throw down the Rod of Atos in some cases, so that you get like the maximum duration of him either not being able to zip away essentially. Now you can also do this with Skyrat Mage. This is why these heroes are good, but it's important that you itemize correctly on something like Silencer or Skyrat, because otherwise Storm will come back online once you're making these like small little mistakes every now and again. Now two other great items against Storm is Orchid and Sight of Vice. Now the thing is that Orchid is only effective against Storm in the early parts of the game, because he'll end up buying a BKB or a Linken's later, and it will render your Orchid useless. And in some cases you'll see the rare Eul Scepter coming out from Storm, so that it will counter the Orchid, it will counter the global silence. If he thinks that there's a lot of silence going to come his way as single target spells, he's going to pick up that Eul's in the occasional basis. And then you have the other item, which is Sight of Vice. I highly recommend this in later parts of the game. It's one of the few ways to control the hero. Now again, I need to emphasize the fact is that hero picking is really important against Storm, and the items are not like always the best thing, but it's important to pick up Rod of Atos in the right types of matches when you pick something like a Silencer or a Skyrat Mage. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please tell me what ultimate ability I should do next. If you like this kind of content, you want to see more of it, make sure you subscribe.